This guy, I think, is one of the best Vipers out there.
Un Hidaro que es un puto crack, o sea, una puta máquina con el personaje.
I just don't have the patience to go in a server and see, oh, you gotta lane this, and you gotta lane this. Like, I don't have the patience to do this.
Oh, I like that smoke.
So you know everything from everywhere, right?
Pretty much.
He knows a lot, mate. A lot.
Last round in the half.
Can you be my teacher on Viper?
Welcome back, my fellow students, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a Viper main since beta and I'm also Radiant. I'm gonna teach you guys all my secrets with Viper, and you may think that you already know them, but trust me, you don't know shit. Now, before we start anything, it's really important you guys have the correct settings. So, the only setting that really matters is detail quality. You need to have it on low, because if you don't, this is gonna happen. It's gonna be a lot of extra smoke, but if you have it on low, it's gonna look like this instead, and it's just gonna be a little easier. Now, to learn Viper efficiently in custom games, I'm gonna give you guys two tips. The first one is, if you look at the minimap, you can always see where your orb is gonna land. So that's gonna make it a lot easier to make orb lineups. And for the second tip, if you use all your abilities, but you wanna have them back, you don't need to restart the round. Instead of doing that, you can just recall your abilities by holding the key. Now I have my wall back and I can place it again. A very common question I get is, what are the best and worst maps for Viper? And it's gonna take a long time to explain why, so I'm just gonna keep it short and say, trust me when I tell you. The best maps are Breeze, Icebox, Pearl, Bind and Fracture. The mediocre ones are Haven and Split. And definitely the worst one is Ascent. You can choose if you want to go double smoker on Bind, but it is a must on Ascent, if you even dare pick her on that fucking map. Alright, moving on to all the general knowledge you need to have with Viper. If an enemy touches any of her smoke abilities, they're gonna take instant 30 DK damage and 10 DPS, which means 10 damage per second. The initial 30 damage does not stack, so let's say someone enters the ult and they cross the orb as well. That doesn't mean they're gonna take another 30 damage. The snake bite, which is your molly, will apply a vulnerable effect on the enemy. So just by touching this, you're gonna take 12.5 DPS, and including that, you're gonna get vulnerable. So if someone shoots you, one bullet is double damage. And the same goes for the smoke, which is once they enter the smoke, combined with a snake bite, it's gonna do double damage. Now, since we are dealing with a lot of smokes, your superior gun for Viper is gonna be the Phantom, and any other gun that doesn't leave bullet tracers. Any shotgun is viable, even the Bucky. But I must say, when it comes to the shorty, even though you have a big chance of killing them, there is actually a small chance that even if you hit them straight on, you're not gonna kill them. This is why when you're playing the shorty, I recommend you to crouch, which is gonna increase your accuracy. Now you can see the difference. It is quite huge. Also, it's super OP to run a gun inside the ult, because the enemy can only see so far. Viper is a controller, and your job on attacking is to provide cover for your teammates with your smokes. I know that a lot of you guys like doing lineups, but you guys gotta remember that if you don't get side control, there's no point in doing lineups. So if you're struggling to get side control, consider using your mollies to actually clear corners. There's only one way to safely clear corners with your mollies, and it requires you to be on the right side, because look, from that side I can clear this corner, but if I were to stand here, I can't bounce it like that. It just doesn't work. Your safest alternative is treat it as if you were counter strafing, like that. But in most situations, you don't really want to clear close with your mollies, because you can have a fade, dogging, you can have Sova reveal, like we have all those abilities. So leave that to the sentinels or initiators and focus on mollying where you think the enemies can pop up, like for instance backside, or maybe they're gonna swing out all the way back there, so you can combine it with your wall. Now obviously when you shoot your mollies, you don't want to stand in the complete open, so in the real situation this would be smoked, so you can kind of wing your lineups from there. And let your duelist entry first. You're not a duelist, so let your duelist flash in, go entry, and your mollies are gonna help them clear sight. The second thing you can do with Viper as an attacker is lurking. In most maps you wanna lurk mid, cause that's your safest alternative and it's gonna allow you to take a lot of map control for free. In this position I can get a lot of info on mid, and let's say my teammates are going A, I can catch the rotation. But if I'm not waiting for any rotation and just want to find a pick, I can just turn off the smoke, wait a bit and find the correct timing, and then peek. Cause the whole point of lurking is to get a free kill. When it comes to defending with Viper, the concept is a lot easier. Your main goal is to smoke the choke point either on B or A, whatever site you're holding. A common mistake many Viper mains do is they don't place the smoke deep enough, and if they don't, it gives the enemy more room to entry. For instance, in this situation they can swing out from the right side, maybe the left, but if the smoke is deep then they can't do that. They can only swing out from there and there. Also, did you notice that I was aiming at the left side and the right side? That's because most people, when they swing out of the smoke, they're gonna come from the right or left side, not the middle. Anyways, if you hear enemies pushing, don't just insta-molly. You only wanna molly if you think they're gonna push through the smoke. If your smoke runs out, use the walls to your advantage. There are many ways you can defend with Viper, but the most common one is you use the wall on one side and then smoke off the choke point for the site you're actually holding. This way I can defend B and A simultaneously. The second way of defending is if you want to lock down a site completely or play retake. It works by smoking the choke point and then cutting off the site as well. So let's say they enter the choke point, which is your first layer of defense, then your second layer of defense would be your wall. And you don't necessarily have to use the wall in the same fashion every single time. Like, I can cut off backside completely. That's a different kind of setup for defending. And the last common way of defending is smoking off the choke point for the site you're holding and then saving your wall for retaking the other site. Now, when it comes to using your ult, unless you know that they're gonna be rushing, you don't want to place it instantly because your enemies are just gonna rotate. So what you want to do is listen for sound cues and then decide what you want to do.
You want to play? Let's play.
Yeah, man on B main. He's gonna ult, yeah, he's gonna ult.
Yeah, underground. Okay.
Spike down B.
Main arcade.
One enemy remaining.
Nice.
Alright, I understand that stopping a breach ult is one thing, but what about KO? Again, I want you to listen closely, cause you're always able to ult before a KO ults. You know why? Cause you can hear the charge up of his ult. Listen closely.
Don't get in my way.
But what if you don't have the ult? Seems impossible, right? But it's not really. Place your smoke beforehand and play far back with your mollies ready.
I'm playing back.
How your molly? Your smoke is still there. What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm not silenced. Maybe in.
Never say never. But when it comes to stopping a raise or sky ult, it becomes very dangerous fast. so a shotgun will help you a lot.
Face your fear! Fire in the hole! I've got your trail.
Alright, I know you guys have been waiting for me to talk about lineups, but honestly, before I say anything, lineups are very situational. You're only meant to use them if you can get easy side control with your teammates, or if you have no other choice. Whenever you go back to your lineup spot, you have to be aware of the flank. I've been killed so many times because I was unaware of the flank or my teammates weren't watching. A very common question I get is, when should I start shooting my lineup? And the correct answer is after covering the bomb for 27 seconds. But if you know that your enemies are gonna start defusing before 27 seconds has passed, then obviously shoot it and do the rest of the work with your gun. Now, if you're a Viper main and you shoot your lineups like this, you're gonna make my soul hurt. You gotta remember that each molly lasts for 5.5 seconds. So don't shoot your second molly before 5.5 seconds. And when it comes to activating your orb, make sure that you only activate it once your first molly has landed. Also, a great tip I have for you guys is, if you know your teammates are gonna struggle to cover the bomb, you can always ult and just leave the site. Remember that your ult is gonna stay up for 15 seconds once you leave it. So that's 15 seconds of free cover on the bomb. Trust me, the enemies are not gonna defuse while your ult is up. They don't know where you are. And even better is if you have rotation lineups. Now they definitely don't know where you are. Alright, enough about cringe lineups. Just make sure that whenever you don't use lineups, you cover your teammates with your smokes, and once you have side control, focus on your post-plant setup. And there are some really strong one-ways and setups you can use for post-plant. They are obviously not gonna push this, so once your orb runs out, that's when you can molly to stall even further. Now let's say you only use your wall to smoke a site. Let's say I wanna smoke heaven on A with my wall. I just aim there, I shoot. So you see this whole this big gap, there's a smaller one right beside it, and if you aim exactly on it, then you'll get the perfect one way for post plant. However, if you're defending and you want to counter strong setups like that, then obviously have your smokes ready for retake. If you combine your wall with your orb for retaking, you're gonna have a very easy time getting sight back. Cause look, if you use your mollies to retake sight, let's say I wanna molly close right, and then I can use my smokes as well. I mean, this is looking like a piece of cake, man. And then you can down your smoke at any time to contest this area. Now, I forgot to mention this, but if you deactivate your orb, you cannot use it for 8 seconds, but if you pick it up, you don't have a cooldown. Alright, just a few tips regarding all the abilities now. The first one is, if you're inside your own smoke and you either pick up the smoke or deactivate it, you're gonna always see the enemy first. The second tip I have is, you can use your wall to create little rat pockets. So if you hide there and let the enemies push onto sight, you can kill them easily, and this strat can be done on all maps and all sites. But just like with rat ults, I'm not gonna recommend you guys to do these kind of strats. They are kinda reliant on luck, cause you're relying on the fact that the enemies won't find you. But if they do find you, which is common in higher elos, then yeah, you're kinda fucked. Another common question I get is, how do I play inside the ult? And the correct answer is, you either hold the entrance to the ult, or you play far back and let them come to you. That way they're gonna take the max amount of DK damage, and by the time they find you, you're gonna one-shot them. But the reason why playing close to the entrances are okay as well is you will always see them first, because their weapon is gonna be sticking inside the ult, and their body as well. And yet again, the same applies for the orb. If you are already inside the orb and someone pushes, you're gonna see them first. Another common question I need to answer is, why do I look down in my ult? Well, it's because you will always see your enemy before they can see you. So it gives you an advantage, but I don't recommend doing this if you have low sense. And also, if you look down, you're protected against most pop flashes. Now, avoiding pop flashes are one thing, but there are many other counters to Viper's ult, such as a Sova drone, or a Sova recon, or a KO knife. So my recommendation is to avoid those abilities as best as you can, especially the ones that reveal your position. Also, when you're in the ult, make sure you don't choose a predictable corner or somewhere unsafe where you can just get spammed.
One enemy remaining.
Wait me.
I'm waiting. Now, I know that many of you guys hate missing your mollies. It happens to everyone. To make it easier, your molly will always travel 30 meters if you're looking straight ahead. So let's say I want to molly this corner. I don't know exactly where to shoot, so I can ping it. 27 meters. Okay, that's a bit below straight. And yeah, easy. I hope you guys learned something new today, and if you want to learn more from me personally, I'm now a coach on Pro Guides, so you can just hire me there. Link is in the description, but yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay toxic.